September 17th, 2001.
Good morning and welcome back to the greatest market on the face of the earth.
Today, Wall Street and Main Street return to work.
I want to be doing something. I can't sit here and think about it anymore.
We're Americans. We're going to get back to work.
Defiant.
This is the United States of America, guys. We're not going to blow away.
People don't, go about their business, then everybody else, the terrorists are going to win.
But nervous.
Company name, please.
The first thing that comes to my mind is that I just want to make it in and out.
There's army people everywhere and police everywhere. It just doesn't feel like the New York that I know. I don't know when it ever will again.
What a difference 1 week has made.
It's not what we're normally looking at in the morning. You're normally looking at two towers.
Tonight, getting back to business. America fights back.
From ABC News, this is Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Chris Bury.
For many Americans, this was the day the country got back on its feet. A day of reestablishing routines after the week that shook the nation to its bones. The stock market finally reopened, way down, but not out. Major League Baseball resumed tonight. The Mets wore hats honoring the New York police, fire, and rescue squads. And like it or not, commercials are running again on network TV. But it would be folly, of course, to pretend that things are back to normal. Too much has changed since Tuesday. Those changes are the focus of our program tonight. But first, the latest developments. Tonight, recovery work goes on in the rubble of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. More than 5,400 people are presumed dead. Here in Washington, the president and his national security team continue to prep the American people for a long and bloody war. The Attorney General warns that those who helped the hijackers may still be at large in this country. The FBI says 49 people have now been detained for immigration violations in the course of questioning. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped more than 684 points, the biggest one-day point decline in history, but in percentage terms, the 7% drop does not even rank among the 10 worst days on Wall Street. We begin in New York. Today, the city hit so hard in so many ways, dusted itself off and answered the bell. Here's ABC News correspondent Deborah Amos.
It was a whole new world on Wall Street today, with flags unfurled and soldiers in the streets. Security was tight. Police officers checked IDs.
Yeah, sir. Step up. The Attorney General.
Yeah, I need license.
New York State Attorney General.
But the workers here checked out the skyline, the first time they could see firsthand the magnitude of the destruction. Oh my God, this man says.
It's just eerie walking out and seeing the building gone and seeing the open space, and all the feelings are coming right back to you again. So it is kind of nervous experience right now. It's still in a surreal state right now.
Surreal at the stock market too. A place known for the healthy noise of commerce began with a moment of silence. Then the opening bell.
Ladies and gentlemen, our heroes will now open the marketplace. The green button.
Then the opening bell. Barely heard when the cheers went up for rescue workers, the market had another message, down. The biggest one-day point drop ever. But some traders chose to see good news even here.
This is the right time to buy, because if within a day or two, it's probably going to recover at least this amount plus some more, and you can really make some money.
Not for the airlines, insurance companies, and financial services who were hit the hardest. The biggest winners, defense and security stocks. No surprises here.
I think all things considered, even though the market fell sharply, it was an orderly decline, and it at least gives us a starting point for assessing a new world with more risks and more uncertainty.
You did 95,025, you leave 30,000 shares, UBS.
A new world where a nearly 700-point drop in the market is considered normal. And that is what New Yorkers struggled with today, to be normal. Defiantly, patriotically, aggressively normal, putting the necessary parts of the city back together. The phones, down for days because the Verizon office is right next door to Building 7 of the World Trade Center.
Until we get the power, we're not going to be able to give you an actual definition. We don't know how much damage the system has actually sustained until we get power up in the central office.
The electric lines also damaged. How much of it have you put back together?
I know we're doing really good. From what I hear, we're doing really good. I couldn't tell you how much we put back together.
And the bagels, of course, the starch that makes Wall Street run. Champs, a deli near the stock market, opened at 5 a.m. this morning. You feel like a different kind of New York?
If anything, it feels more united. More, everybody was coming in, hugging everybody, making sure everybody was all right. Even people you don't really see a lot or don't talk too much, they were coming in, are you all right? Yeah, are you all right?
A floor trader comes in for a coffee break.
This is the first day just getting back to reality. That's what it is.
It's hard to be normal when the dust here is still so thick that people can feel it and they can taste it. It's hard to be normal when just a few blocks away, rescue workers are still digging through the wreckage and the rubble. And the sound of heavy machinery is the background noise to work. It's hard to be normal when all of those still missing once were on these streets less than a week ago. The reminders are everywhere. Faces on telephone poles, on the side of buildings, here on a wall. Smiling faces from a world that seems long ago.
My heart is still out for what happened at the World Trade Center, and never ever in my 18 years being around Manhattan, I have never ever seen the city this way before. Terrible tragedy.
A tragedy beyond explanation. So how does the city's best-known magazine explain the mood of this city? This stark cover on The New Yorker.
I think it makes exactly the right understatement.
A statement that only the eye and not the camera can see, ever so faintly, in the deepest of gray tones, New York's familiar symbols, two tall towers.
At a certain time, we don't want to see those images, really. That's like a dagger into our mind's eye.
A memorial issue without the New Yorker's famous cartoons.
This is a sort of a black hole event out of which no light or lightness can escape, no joke can illuminate, that it defies and denies comic treatment, and it should in that moment. And so nothing about it can be funny, and nothing really for a time being about anything can be funny. But we will laugh again. We'll laugh again in the New Yorker next week. There will be cartoons. We won't treat it. We can't. We shouldn't. But we will treat us. We exist. Our responses to it exist. Our human nature will continue to exist. And there will be cartoons about us in this sort of brave, new, fearful world.
A brave and fearful world that, given human nature, will feel normal again. But not this day. Not here. This is Deborah Amos for Nightline in New York.
It's now midday Tuesday in Japan, and we wanted to check in with ABC News correspondent Mark Litke in Tokyo to see how the Asian markets are responding to today's plunge on Wall Street. Mark, you're there at the Nikkei stock market. What's it doing right now?
Well, we've got a bit of a rally here going. In fact, a fairly strong rally. Some are calling it a relief rally. We've got the Tokyo market up about 3%. And that's pretty much the same across all the other Asian markets. 2.5% in Hong Kong, 3% in Seoul. There's probably some bargain hunting going on here. There's a positive reaction to the lowering of interest rates around the globe. But basically, this is a reaction to confidence building. This market was just very happy to see the American market get itself up, operating efficiently. The numbers weren't as important as the fact that it was operating in business as usual.
Mark, even though the markets in Asia appear to be rallying now, there must be some overall concern about the economy, with worries the United States is heading into a recession, and already Japan has been there.
The markets in Asia all have their unique things that they react to, but the overriding concern is the global economic condition, and specifically the United States. If the United States economy slips into recession, each of these countries has serious worries. Japan is worried about its yen strengthening and the fact that its major exports will become too expensive. You've got China and Hong Kong and the Philippines worried about the clothing and the toys they export to the United States for the Christmas season. You've got Taiwan concerned about high-tech stuff. So it's very important that these countries see an American market that is not slipping into recession and is building itself off a base now.
Mark Litke in Tokyo, thank you very much. How worried should you be about the drop in this country and Wall Street? We'll let you know in just a moment.
You work on it.
You think on it.
You play on it.
It was kind of like this dream I'd always had.
Spend all day on it.
Getting into something.
Chill on
Talk
it.
on it. Relax on it.
It's really warm. It's comforting. You entertain on it. Pass the time.
Watch TV.
Romance. Drift away.
Being able to be there for hours.
You spend your life on it. Shouldn't it be the furniture you've always wanted?
And now it's easy with the Simple Finance Plan, only at Ethan Allen.
Furniture built for your life.
At a price you can actually live with.
The Heartburn Hotel. If you suffer persistent heartburn 2 days a week or more, despite diet change and treatment, it may be acid reflux disease. Prescription Prevacid can mean 24-hour relief from acid reflux disease. Prevacid turns off tiny pumps that produce acid. It has a low occurrence of side effects, such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. Ask your doctor if Prevacid is right for you.
So leave your heartburn behind, yeah!
As details of this unthinkable tragedy continue to unfold, stay with ABC News for the very latest. And tomorrow, watch Good Morning America.
Always presents the facts of protection. We change position an average of 32 times a night. That's a lot of moving, which is why we need Always Overnight with more side protection. Always wings are double the length of other wings to help protect where others don't, even when we move. Double the wing sure beats half a wing. Always expect more protection.
Facts of Life by Lysol. Fact, cats don't come with brakes. Fact, no other wipe kills germs faster than Lysol sanitizing wipes. They kill 99.9% of germs in seconds. Life demands Lysol. That's a fact.
Lysol presents Facts of Life. Fact, a child who shares nothing else will share the cold bug. Fact, Lysol was unbeatable at killing 99.9% of cold germs. Plus, Lysol's the spray pediatricians recommend most. Life demands Lysol. That's a fact.
Joining me now to discuss the economy and the markets are Michelle Singletary, a weekly columnist for the Washington Post. She joins us here in our Washington studios. And James Glassman, a resident fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. He joins us from New York, where today the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped more than 684 points, or just over 7%. Jim, there was a lot of talk before the markets opened today about patriotic buying, but it looked like investors voted with their feet and moved for the exits.
Well, it's true. At least institutional investors did. My sense is that small investors sat tight, which is what they should do. You know, remarkably, Chris, this was, of course, the worst terrorist act in American history, one of the darkest days in American history, and yet the market decline today was not even among the top 10 market declines ever. I think was actually fairly mild, and what history shows is that after a sharp decline, usually, and we don't know how long, but certainly within a few weeks or a few months, the market begins to recover.
Michelle, I suppose it's quite difficult for investors to keep their cool at a time like this, but I suppose that's exactly what you're advising your readers to do.
Absolutely. You can't panic. You can't afford to panic and pull your money out now, particularly if you're looking at investments on the long haul. What I do suggest consumers do is think about their spending. I mean, I think there's a lot of viewpoints right now and encouragement to stay calm but spend. And I think the lesson here is that you need to take a look at what you're doing with your money. Because, of course, you're not going to have money to invest if you keep spending the way many people are doing right now.
At the same time, Michelle, spending is what's been propping the economy up. In the last quarter, growth was all but stalled except for consumer spending.
Absolutely, but you know what may be best for the economy is not necessarily pretty good for the individual. You know, we can't be sort of shifted into spending more because of this disaster. I mean, many people are in debt, are in problems, and they're losing their jobs. Look at what's happening in the airline industry right now. And I said probably many of those people are swamped in credit card debt. And while we all want to do the right thing right now for our economy, individuals, families ought to take a look at what they're doing with their money. And if no other time, this is the time to look at your values. Are you spending your money where you value it the most? Are you saving for your kids' college education? Are you saving for your retirement? I mean, obviously, tomorrow's not promised to any of us. And are we doing with our money what we say we want to do with it?
Jim Glassman, today, the Treasury Secretary was out on all the talk shows urging Americans to buy Americans, as if we now have a patriotic duty to spend. What about that?
Well, I think that that's a nice sentiment, but the fact is that Americans are scared right now. They have every right to be scared. They need to take a longer view, though, and look at not just their spending, as Michelle says, and I think that's important, but they also should look at their investing. And this is a time to sit tight, or in fact, even to look for bargains. Large fortunes are made at times when people are scared to death about what's going on in the stock market. And if you believe in the U.S. economy, and I certainly continue to, then this is a good time to reassess your portfolio, make sure you're diversified and solid, and perhaps even be buying.
Michelle, the big losers today appear to be the airline industry, the insurance industry, hotel, resort industry. If those are the losers, are there any winners in this climate?
Well, certainly the defense industry is going to probably see a big boost, which I think that some of those stocks were up. Certainly security companies, companies that specialize in securing our nation and personal people. So I think there are some places where you can look, but you can't, you know, none of us can time the market. Who knew this was going to happen? The key here is to put your priorities first, and then you certainly will prosper later.
Jim Glassman, even before this event, there was talk of a recession. The global markets were teetering. Are we likely to see a worldwide effect from this?
Almost certainly. I think we're going to be pushed into recession. We may be in a recession now. However, and there's an irony to this, the policy changes that are coming about as a result of these attacks put us in a much better position toward the end of the year or the beginning of next year. We're spending more. That's a good idea. The federal government should be spending or cutting taxes, but spending is the second best thing to do. The Fed is providing more liquidity. That is to say, interest rates are dropping. I think we're going to have a much more solid energy policy where we're developing supply. Energy prices are going to drop. That puts us in a much better position for a recovery. But it's almost inevitable that we are now facing a recession. I hope it's short, but we're facing one.
Jim Glassman, on that somber note, we have to take a break. Jim Glassman in New York, Michelle Singletary here in Washington. Thank you very much for joining us. When we come back, how today is very different than last Monday, a week that may forever change this country.
I don't know what my mother calls me more often, Jimmy or... You must be hungry. At her table, there's always a helping of this, a taste of that, and you get as much as you want, which is how Olive Garden brings you their never-ending pasta bowl. Have Alfredo with penne, or how about bolognese meat sauce with fettuccine? You pick your homemade sauces, you pick your pastas, you get all you want. It's all delicious, and it's just $7.95. Tonight I'm having it with my brother. Mom calls him... Did you eat yet? Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family.
You're looking for a home. You're searching. There are questions. Where do you start? You can search over 1.3 million current home listings. Click on to Realtor.com. Check info on schools and financing. Even take a virtual tour. And when you're ready, you can click and connect with a realtor. Realtor.com. It's the place to start when you start looking for a home.
We have got to cut costs, people. Ideas?
We could open an account on FedEx.com, save 10% on online express shipping.
Okay, how about this? We open an account on FedEx.com, we save 10% on online express shipping.
That is wonderful. You just said the same thing I said, only you did this.
No, I did this. Makes all the difference.
Bingo.
That's good. Right on the nose. It's really a great idea.
That new boss is from another planet.
Totally spaced out at that meeting.
Hey, what's that on your desk?
ABCnews.com. Ready when you are.
The anchor team that wakes you up in the morning now lets you know how the day is shaping up. News 2 at 4:30 p.m. It's news you can use, and it's all for you.
So we'll still be here in the mornings.
And now we'll be here in the afternoons, too.
Neil Orn and Victoria Hansen on News 2 at 4:30 p.m. First, fast, accurate.
Meet my shadow. Wherever I go, he goes. Ooh. Good time to teach you about Downy Wrinkle Releaser. Reduces wrinkles so our casual stuff looks neat and Mommy irons less. We spray back and forth, give a few firm tugs, smooth, and we're done. Use it on clothes, out of your closet, or with an iron to press things. Downy Wrinkle Releaser. Smooth out life's little wrinkles.
So much has changed in a week. What seemed terribly important on September 10th may not rise to the level of trivial now. Nightline correspondent John Donvan went back to take a look at where we were and what we were thinking about before Tuesday, and how our perspective has changed since then.
To look back now and try to piece together a picture of who we all were before this happened, and to recall what we talked about then and what we thought mattered then, it almost feels like archaeology to sift through evidence that is only as old as last Monday's newspapers. Can it really be that what most of the front pages highlighted just a week ago, exactly a week ago, was the big game, the big match, the big record? And of course, Tuesday morning on television, even as hijackers approached New York and Washington, the big story.
The strongest words yet from Jordan, that he will be back.
It seemed so important then.
Everyone guessing.
It looks like such a luxury now. What else do the papers say that we worried about last Monday? Layoffs, which are real and even more real now. The ethics of stem cell research, which are still important. But all that fretting we did this year about how to age, how to keep healthy, how to stay happy. And that hyped-up sex scandal, has it been mentioned even once these past 4 days? The congressman came to mourn with everyone else. The media left him alone. Difficult times make great men, the saying goes. Last Tuesday morning, the Village Voice had comments from voters saying things like Rudy Giuliani should dig a deep hole and stuff himself into it.
Put your mask on.
This week, some say he may have achieved greatness.
What's the situation right now?
And might the tone change here in Washington, D.C.? The White House correspondent for Cox Newspapers suspects that it will.
The impact of this, even we as journalists haven't even begun to absorb. When I looked at the pictures this morning of the ash and papers that had fallen over the graveyard in Lower Manhattan, you see an image like that and you're gripped again. We haven't begun to absorb this yet, and I think that cynicism will take quite a long time off now.
Last Monday, as it happens, the papers carried a big story about the threat of suicide attackers, but it was, as it always seemed to us, someone else's problem, Israel's. A few weeks earlier, after another attack in Israel, you heard the sort of advice the U.S. always gave the Israelis.
We've worked very closely with
Prime Minister Sharon to urge him to show restraint.
Restraint, an emotion that now feels like more of a luxury to us. It's been a pretty good run for prosperity these past few years, especially for people who worked in New York's financial district. Stuff, owning stuff, seemed to be an imperative. Last Monday's papers again, they were full of the usual ads. And now, well, by the middle of last week, it seemed pretty clear that a lot of people had lost their appetite for shopping. And there was that Neiman Marcus salesperson quoted in the Washington Post who said she suddenly felt ridiculous putting her energy into trying to sell lipstick with, as she put it, all the tragedy and destruction. This morning, however, people were starting to head back to the malls, and some of them were actually going with a new reason to buy. Patriotic duty, or as the Treasury Secretary put it this morning,
this is a time to buy America. We're going to show resilience. The people out there in the farms and factories and shops are going to put America back on a fast track.
Our heroes will now open the marketplace.
Wall Street reopened this morning. Traders showed up, but somehow the game had changed. Last week, we heard this put most eloquently and painfully by the head of a Wall Street firm that lost 700 of its 1,000 employees in the attack.
There's only one reason to be in business, is because we have to make our company be able to take care of my 700 families. 700 families. I have 700 families.
President Kennedy has been assassinated. It's official now.
38 years ago, when a U.S. president was murdered, people also sensed that the world had changed forever. The nation stopped moving for a while to mourn a single man. There was a sense of an innocence lost for good. In New York City, they are mourning thousands, and their faces are everywhere. 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 Lost is the sense of ever feeling safe the same way again.
I am so pleased that there are so many here in this great basilica.
But out of all this, maybe Americans also found some things that had been missing on Monday morning. On the Saturday before the attack, the newspapers carried the usual schedules of worship, and certainly there are Americans who worship every day. But after Tuesday, religious attendance soared. And something else. Maybe for the first time in ages, we may be seeing heroes, real heroes, not athletes playing a game, or celebrities playing a role, or billionaires playing with their toys, but quiet people who take real risks that they don't have to, and for no reward. And finally, a return to last Monday's sports coverage, when the Rangers beat the Royals and the Blue Jays topped the Tigers and so on. We can be pretty sure that a lot of fans just wanted that same old anthem over with so they could start the game already. That's not how it felt tonight when Major League Baseball played its first game since the attack. And as we saw, they opened Wall Street with a different patriotic song. It's the same one that Americans have taken to singing across the country these last few days. Maybe over time, these feelings will fade away. Maybe Americans eventually will stop singing patriotic songs. But at least we saw that people still remember the words. And that's more than we could be sure of last Monday. I'm John Donvan for Nightline in Washington.
The return to work today could not erase an overall sense of tension. The country remains on a high state of alert, uncertain of what the future will bring. More on that when we return.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your help.
It's my job.
Wow.
Honey, can we start now?
Yes. Yes, we can.
We know how you feel, and that's why we're here. Circuit City. We're with you.
Sweetie.
Yeah, just put that anywhere.
Oh, what a day.
The seating capacity of a minivan.
Where is it? I don't see it.
Capabilities of an SUV. The smooth ride of a luxury car. All in one, totally innovative package. The all-new Buick Rendezvous.
I guess we're not in Kansas anymore.
Buick Rendezvous. It's all good.
Are you Tiger Woods?
Kathleen McGuire for the defense. Good afternoon, Your Honor. You're embarrassing yourself and the road.
Court finds you in contempt. Take her all the way to lockup.
What makes you think I'd want to hook up with you?
Because you need me.
Where can I run to? Have I sinned when you cry like the rain?
Philly, Tuesday, September 25th, 10/9 Central on ABC. Viewer discretion advised.
Long John Silver's has a totally new taste. Our new flatbread sandwiches. What's so new about them? Everything. We take our famous chicken or fish and have the best new bread on the planet. New white Wisconsin cheddar, crisp lettuce, and incredible zesty new sauce, and new crumbled hickory bacon. Fold it all into our mouth-watering flatbread, and you've got something more delicious than anything you've tried before. Try one today, and we'll throw in free fries and a free drink. 2 new flatbread sandwiches from Long John Silver's. They're new. They're unbelievably delicious. Taste one today.
Thinking about painting your car? Stop thinking, do it. Maaco's still offering the Ambassador Paint Service for only $189, the best economy paint service in America. For a great finish and a beautiful deal, call 1-888-MAACO-USA.
Only one show wakes you up and gives you everything you need to start your day. News 2 this morning. First, fast, accurate.
You're looking at soldiers and their families. Citizen soldiers, members of the Army National Guard. They train part-time, building civilian experience, pursuing higher education. They serve our country and community in times of need. Join them. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD. Discover the part-time job with full-time pride.
In the Army National Guard, you can.
For many Americans, the word to describe the new reality is tension, as ABC News correspondents Dean Reynolds and Neil Karlinski now report.
At the foot of the 110-story Sears Tower in Chicago, security is paramount.
Keep moving. Sears Tower does not allow standing anymore.
The restrictions are a direct response to a pervasive nervousness in the country, especially at landmarks like San Francisco's Transamerica building.
The first thing that comes to my mind is that I just want to make it in and out because of what happened.
Already, access has been tightened at the nation's nuclear power plants, at water treatment facilities, and hydroelectric projects. In Houston, the stores were open, but the shoppers were jumpy.
I do a lot of praying and just take one day at a time.
A travel agent in Dallas is hearing a lot of fear from his clients.
I think there's a lot of families that are right now looking at parents who travel for business purposes and that type of thing, saying, gosh, do you really have to go?
At Northwest Airlines, 300 of their flight attendants apparently feel the same way and have gone on unpaid leave rather than go up in the air. The pilots' union is calling for aggressive action by airline crews if they confront hijackers, including use of the cockpit axe. Gas masks and knife and bulletproof vests are in great demand now from the public.
We probably had a couple hundred gas masks, and they were, I'd say, by the first or second day, essentially all depleted.
At baseball games today, fans faced searches, and the stands were swept for explosives.
No large bags allowed in, no backpacks, no coolers.
For students at an Islamic school near Chicago, no more outdoor recess, and 2 off-duty police officers are now on patrol. Every day brings new evidence of profiling by the public. On American Flight 528, 3 men said to be Middle Eastern looking were taken from the plane and detained after a stewardess became suspicious.
Well, what scares me more in this new America is it that I could have been sitting next to some terrorists, or that, 3 people were dragged off a plane simply because they were dark.
New kinds of questions for a new day in America. This is Dean Reynolds for Nightline in Chicago.
The Evans family has been farming this land near the town of George, Washington, for the last half-century. Until last week, drought was their biggest concern. Not anymore. 49-year-old Mark Evans.
So you think their attacks on us might not be over?
I don't think their attempts are. I really don't.
His mother, Doris Evans, struggles to explain to her 9-year-old grandson, Brian, something she herself cannot understand.
They're terrorists. You've heard that word, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're bad people.
Even here, people have begun looking around and wondering, could something in this part of the country be a target? 60 miles up the road, the Grand Coulee Dam provides one possible answer. The reason is the Grand Coulee Dam is a major supplier of power, not just to nearby Seattle and the Pacific Northwest, but the entire West Coast, including Los Angeles. And so the largest hydroelectric dam in North America, normally a daily tourist stop to hundreds, sometimes thousands, today is sealed off. The heaviest security ever guards the dam, even the view.
That was the scary part. That was really scary.
Why?
It's just forced everyone to start thinking about it and know that security is going to be pushed upon us now.
The people of Grand Coulee never saw themselves as targets.
If we work here, we'd like to think that it wasn't a target, but we don't have that luxury to think that.
No one does. Not even out here. Not anymore. Neil Karlinski, ABC News, Grand Coulee, Washington.
2 fiercely proud New Yorkers on how their city has been transformed when we come back.
Hi, I'm Doug Flutie, pro football player and father of an autistic child. I started the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation to help less fortunate families of autistic children get the support they need. Here's a way you can help. Just dial 1010-220. All calls up to 20 minutes are only 99 cents, and 1010-220 will make a donation to the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation every time you use it. So dial 1010-220, get up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents, and help some great kids at the same time. It's a win-win situation.
The Heartburn Hotel. If you suffer persistent heartburn 2 days a week or more, despite diet change and treatment, it may be acid reflux disease. Prescription Prevacid can mean 24-hour relief from acid reflux disease. Prevacid turns off tiny pumps that produce acid. It has a low occurrence of side effects, such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. Ask your doctor if Prevacid is right for you.
So leave your heartburn behind.
A season premiere so big, it had to be a 2-hour movie event. The Practice, ABC Sunday at a special time, 9/8 Central.
Every September, I take a break from the news set to visit area schools, and with the help of my shy friends here, talk to students about the importance of helping their neighbors.
Educators Credit Union always joins the fun, taking part in the annual school food drive for Second Harvest Food Bank.
And this year, the Nashville Predators are going back to school too, asking students from these schools for their help in collecting canned foods for those in need.
Thanks, kids, for your hard work.
For years, we've been bringing you the news, stories that educate, protect, and enhance your lives. But that's only half of our commitment to you. We're out in the community, finding new ways to improve the quality of your life with Need to Know. So when you see the Need to Know symbol, it indicates community projects and partnerships specifically designed to help you and your family. We've been helping you for years, and will continue to do so for years to come.
News 2 Predictor pinpoints temperature and precipitation 2 days into the future.
That would indicate some of the heavier rain, some of the thunderstorm possibilities.
News 2 Predictor tells you when it's going to rain in your area.
Line
of thunderstorms pushing through starting at Wednesday.
News 2 Predictor gives you important, accurate weather information you need to plan your day.
The News 2 Predictor definitely showing the rain.
Exclusive News 2 Predictor. First, fast, accurate.
There have been many words written about the terrorism that altered the New York City skyline. You grieve for the city whose once indelible profile was mutilated, just like that, on one beautiful September morning. The words of New York Times columnist Frank Rich, who joins us from our New York bureau. As does David Remnick, editor of the New Yorker magazine, who writes in a cover story about the snowball of murderous debris, the shards of glass and the glittering steel panels speeding down from the sky. Now there was unbridled panic. David, the cover of the New Yorker this week is very stark, shades of black. Has that kind of cover ever appeared before in the existence of your magazine?
Absolutely not. Usually the idea of a New Yorker cover is either a very tenuous connection to the events or even more often a kind of joyful city scene or a celebration of some scene or another. But there's no joy to find in this. There was no way to even begin to apply one's imagination to what happened here, and it seemed a kind of egoless image, black on black, the shadow almost of the missing World Trade Center. It was the only image that seemed adequate to what was going on. At Pearl Harbor, it was quite a different story, and maybe it was because we lived in an almost medialess world, a world of radio. Pearl Harbor was very far away, and it took a long time for that to really, really absorb into the guts of the American people. Certainly for New Yorkers and Washingtonians, this was so immediate and unmediated by the media. You could look out your window and see hell.
Frank Rich, we heard earlier in John Donovan's report about the newspaper front pages a week ago and the television programs and the stories about Barry Bonds and Michael Jordan and Gary Condit. Suddenly now, a week later, it seems as if the trivial is trivial again.
Yeah, the trivial is trivial again, and it's interesting because it seems to me we've come out of a period of a number of years now where we've taken trivial stories that have an element of crisis to them, sometimes legitimately so, Elian Gonzalez, shark attacks, school shootings, and elevated them in our lives to the point where they seem like the fall of Western civilization. And now, a week later, we're in a situation where Western civilization is really being challenged, and it kind of puts all those stories, even the big ones, let alone the trivial sports or entertainment stories, into perspective.
David, every once in a while there are those moments in history in which one senses an intrinsic change. Perhaps for our generation, it was the assassination of JFK and Vietnam. Perhaps for another generation, it was World War II. Is this one of those genuine moments?
Yes, and I think, at least to my mind, it's far even more profound than the assassination of JFK, which was tragic and something we feel and discuss to this day. But look at what's happened. It is something that has shattered our sense of protectiveness, our fortress America, as it's called. The very fragility of life on Manhattan Island has been shattered. Our sense of the arrangement of the world. I was one who covered the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, and there was much talk about the end of history. And now we find ourselves in a world that's far more complicated than even the depths of the Cold War. I think you're going to be finding that, for example, an essay like Samuel Huntington's The Clash of Civilization, which posits the idea that civilizations like the West, broadly defined, and the Islamic world, broadly defined, are an inherent clash. These kinds of discussions are going to crowd out the trivial. And the trivial, by the way, was always trivial, and it was the fault largely of the media for raising them up to the level of so-called narratives, of national narratives. And they distorted our political dialogue in a horrendous way. But all that aside, we have to be equal to an extremely serious moment and a prolonged moment of serious discussion and debate and examination. It is not merely the job of the government, but also the press and of citizens.
David Remnick, we want to take you up on that point and bring Frank Rich back in. We have to take a break just now. We'll be back with our guests in just a moment.
Enter a new era of discovery at Bristol-Myers Squibb, where groundbreaking genetic research is underway.
Winning the Tour de France was a victory for cancer medicines. But Luke, it's just the start of incredible things to come. Imagine, Luke, your medical history, the story of your genes on a card you carry in your wallet. Your doctor sees your cancer coming years before and gives you a daily pill to take that could prevent it.
At the Bristol-Myers Squibb Center for Applied Genomics, researchers strive to unlock the secrets of breast and colon cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. They're developing medicines tailored to your unique genes. Bristol-Myers Squibb is beginning a revolution in medicine. Our goal is to extend and enhance life, and to lead the way in new frontiers against disease.
Hope, triumph, and the miracle of medicine. Bristol-Myers Squibb Company.
Mom, how many Tums did you take right in front of the wedding planner? You snuck one, too.
It was a Pepsid Complete.
Is that the same as Pepsid AC? No, there's nothing else like Pepsid Complete. It works fast like Tums, but it lasts for hours like Pepsid AC.
So your heartburn goes away and then stays away.
Chewable? Calcium? I gotta try this.
Decisions?
Tony, fabulous.
Pepsid Complete. Just one, and heartburn's done.
Have you tried the anchovy cookies?
Oh, yeah.
And the jalapeno dip?
I'm back.
Now through Tuesday only, it's the ultimate store-wide bedding sale. A sale you only expect from Rooms to Go. Every single mattress without exception will be on sale. One of the rare times every brand, every size, every sleeper, and every Rooms to Go showroom will be reduced to shocking low prices. Get quick delivery, the Rooms to Go 60-day comfort trial. Plus, Rooms to Go will remove your old mattress. So forget department or bedding stores. The real deal is at Rooms to Go. Now through Tuesday only, all bedding's on sale.
Long John Silver's has a totally new taste. Our new flatbread sandwiches. What's so new about them? Everything. We take our famous chicken or fish and have the best new bread on the planet. New white Wisconsin cheddar, crisp lettuce, and incredible zesty new sauce, and new crumbled hickory bacon. Fold it all into our mouth-watering flatbread, and you've got something more delicious than anything you've tried before. Try one today, and we'll throw in free fries and a free drink. 2 new flatbread sandwiches from Long John Silver's. They're new. They're unbelievably delicious. Taste one today.
We're back again with Frank Rich from the New York Times and David Remnick, editor of the New Yorker magazine. Frank, you wrote in your column in the New York Times on Saturday that an entire culture has been transformed by this event. That's a very sweeping statement. You want to explain it?
Yeah, I feel that we've gone through this period where we've been incredibly fat and happy. We've believed that we could have it all, even though the market had started to decline and unemployment was up before this calamity. The fact is that still a few weeks ago our politicians were telling us we could have a tax cut, we could have better schools, better defense, we wouldn't spend the Social Security Trust Fund. There's been an air of unreality, and I feel our culture, even our pop culture, has reflected this simultaneously. This whole fetishization of World War II, for instance, while The Greatest Generation was indeed a great thing, it sort of went off the rails in the past year or so with movies like Pearl Harbor, for instance, which cosmeticized what war was, what even that battle was, with just a sense that we have a kind of, as the writer John Gregory Dunn said, a virtual patriotism instead of a real patriotism. And when you saw those firefighters and New York policemen, these really brave men, the way that they behaved in this crisis and sacrificed their lives, I think it was a jolt to our culture. It's no longer a bunch of World War II movies. It's no longer reality television shows with names like Fear Factor and Lost and Survivor. We now know what fear is again, or I hope we do.
I think it's incredible, these firefighters who were like medieval knights, to watch them in that even to this day, very peculiar headgear in their robes and going into flaming skyscrapers when people are streaming out. If their loss can be turned into anything, it can be an example of all kinds of courage and clear-sightedness that all of us need, whether it's the clear-sightedness of debate or of honest political action and of firmness, and never losing sight of the seriousness of the moment. I think in the weeks to come, the New Yorker, for example, in a very tiny thing, didn't have cartoons. It's the first time this has happened since the publication of John Hersey's Hiroshima. I just couldn't see publishing cartoons about talking dogs or psychiatrist jokes or the rest. But we're going to need real life and ordinary life and family life and not allow this to overwhelm us utterly, but at the same time to have a certain seriousness of discussion, which has been largely missing from American public life for quite a long time during these fat, happy years.
The other consequence, perhaps, and we heard a bit of it in John Donvan's report, and Frank, I'd like you to pick up on this. We heard from a Washington journalist who said perhaps the era of cynicism is going to end. Do you think that, for one thing, every motive of every politician will be questioned now the way it was last week?
Well, perhaps not as much, and I'm against cynicism as anyone else is, but I do think the journalists and the media in general cannot now abandon skepticism. If this country is entering a war, there are a lot of very complicated decisions that have to be made that are very complex, not only to politicians, but to citizens who are dealing with enemies they don't quite understand in places they don't quite know where they are, and there are ethical decisions to be made, legal decisions to be made, political decisions. We have to examine them closely. I would hope that the kind of cynicism we would lose would be, worrying about these politicians' sex lives all the time, or worrying about things that simply don't matter. Take for instance, the mayor of New York, who's been such a towering figure to this city over the past week. No one gives a damn anymore about his marital problems, and we shouldn't have turned it into a huge drama even before this point. We have to be tough about the things that really matter and forget about the circuses.
I mean, remember, we are in a situation where the enemy itself is vague. It's certainly in the larger manifestation of it. If Osama bin Laden is at the center of this, so be it. But this is not a situation like 1941 where Japan had attacked in its supposed self-interest and we knew where to return fire, a national conflict. We have an enormously complex task ahead of us. And people who just want to charge in willy-nilly anywhere and at everything out of pure rage, what's next? Going to war against the entire Islamic world. These things require real intelligence and real moral and political leadership and dispensing with triviality.
Frank Rich, we have less than, I'm sorry, Frank, we have just less than 30 seconds left. As we go into this new period, our leaders are preparing us for a long, bloody conflict. What is the measure of success?
What is the measure of success? I think the measure of success is uniting the country, but around a goal that makes sense, much as David was just saying, that isn't jingoistic, that deals with the full complexity of the situation. Of course, we want to whip terrorism, but we have to do it in the right way, in an effective way, not go off half-cocked, and the country has to be brought along by its political leaders in a responsible way, be told what's going on, why we're doing what we're doing, and have sunlight to a great extent into the process, if not into all the details, obviously, of what we're going to do.
Frank Rich, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. David Remnick, both in New York, we appreciate it. Returning to Wall Street, a strange journey for those going back to the office when we return.
Come closer. You brush, so you can't have denture odor, right? Wrong. Brushing can miss odor-causing food particles. So use Polident. Polident powers away food particles brushing misses. See? Polident for better odor control.
Think he's gonna make it? No way. These guys are good. Yeah.
Yeah.
At Sears Auto Center, we guarantee fast expert service. And now, if we don't install your tires in less than an hour, you get a $20 Sears gift card. Sears, where else?
Why are you so happy? You just lost $20.
For heartburn, you know what's faster than Tums?
Nothing. For heartburn, you know what's safer than Tums? Nothing.
Tums works fast with safe, healthy calcium. So safe, doctors recommend it for pregnant women.
You want fast, you want safe, you want Tums.
Hey, you want to switch?
Sure.
Introducing the all-new Chevy Avalanche. The only vehicle that switches from an SUV to a pickup.
Good idea.
Chevy Avalanche. Like a rock.
This fall, Friday is a whole new look.
Dude, that's your stepmom. Oh my God.
Once and Again premieres Friday, September 28th, 10/9 Central on ABC.
Whoa.
Titans fans, it's football season, and that can only mean one thing. Another season of the Emmy Award-winning show, Monday Night Live with Jeff Fisher, live from Opry Mills. It's the only show that lets you get up close and personal with your favorite Titan players. Hosted by News 2's John Dwyer and Tennessee Titans head coach Jeff Fisher, Monday Night Live gives you the inside scoop on Titans football all season long. Mondays at 6:30 p.m., it's Monday Night Live with Jeff Fisher, only on News 2, sponsored by KFC.
For years, we've been bringing you the news, stories that educate, protect, and enhance your lives. But that's only half of our commitment to you. We're out in the community, finding new ways to improve the quality of your life with Need to Know. So when you see the Need to Know symbol, it indicates community projects and partnerships specifically designed to help you and your family. We've been helping you for years, and will continue to do so for years to come.
Yesterday, President Bush urged Americans to go back to work. Today, all over the country, people did just that. And as ABC News correspondent Bill Blakemore reports, it was an especially poignant day for those who work on the southern tip of Manhattan.
I'm sorry, how much?
Pre-dawn in Hoboken, New Jersey. Wall Street broker John Peluso and his friend broker Mark Campbell board the ferry across the Hudson that used to go to the Trade Towers dock. They look out on a changed world.
It's not what we're normally looking at in the morning. You know, you're normally looking at two towers. My wife in particular said, I don't want you going in there today. And I said, well, you know, where I'm going, this is what we do. I'm not going to let these guys intimidate me. That's the last thing I'm going to let that happen.
I want to be doing something. I can't sit here and think about it anymore.
The ferry today heads to Wall Street, just south of where the towers stood.
Thank you.
They land at a war zone. Soldiers in Wall Street.
Testing 1, 2, 3. You guys around?
Hey, 17-3 for another 30. 2000 A1.
Yeah, my wife's cousin.
On the class,
It was on the 92nd floor, Tower 1.
In the GFI International Brokerage House, 80% of employees made it in today. Trading starts early.
Take 77 out. I'm 121.30 in the third.
It's actually kind of nice to come back here and to stick it to these guys that stuck it to us. We're able to communicate. We're getting deals done. We're trading. 150 offered. How do you want to be?
5 big, Cal 2.
Then at 9:30, also in this place, whose lifeblood is a healthy noise, silence. The air conditioning in the brokerage house is still working, so they don't have to smell the acrid smoke still drifting here over to Wall Street from the wreckage just a few blocks away. The smoke will soon be gone. This sound.
Let me know what kind of size you're talking about.
Again, 107.20, giving it 13.
Let's trade at 0.15.
We'll keep going. Bill Blakemore, ABC News, on Wall Street.
Giving it 13 too. Good morning.
And tonight, the digging continues as the hope for survivors clearly is fading. And that's our report for tonight. I'm Chris Bury in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
The ABC television network extends its thoughts and prayers to those who've suffered so much in this national tragedy. We stand steadfast with all Americans, united in hope and courage. Beauty, talent, compassion. Values showcased as the Miss America tradition continues for its 81st historic year. 51 women will come together to compete for the glory of the crown. Miss America Live, hosted by Tony Tanza, Saturday 8, 7 Central on ABC.